The year 2075 brought humanity to the edge of the solar system, yet we still considered ourselves primitive compared to the vast civilizations that must exist among the stars. Captain Elena Vasquez floated through the corridors of the International Space Station, now expanded into a massive orbital complex that served as humanity's primary gateway to the cosmos. The ISS had grown from its humble beginnings into a sprawling metropolis of interconnected modules housing over 3,000 souls who worked tirelessly to push the boundaries of human knowledge. Elena paused at the observation deck, watching Earth turn slowly beneath her. The blue marble that had cradled humanity for millennia seemed smaller now, more fragile against the infinite backdrop of space. Cities glittered like scattered diamonds across the darkened continents, unaware that their peaceful existence was about to be shattered forever. In the biological research wing of the station, Dr. Marcus Liu hunched over his latest samples from the Mars expedition. As NASA's leading exobiologist, he had dedicated his life to answering the fundamental question that had plagued humanity since they first looked up at the night sky. Are we alone? The red planet had yielded tantalizing clues. Microscopic organisms that suggested life had once flourished in the Martian soil, but nothing that definitively proved the existence of intelligent, extraterrestrial life. Marcus adjusted his microscope and sighed. After 30 years of searching, of analyzing every meteorite and examining every signal from deep space, humanity remained isolated in their cosmic neighborhood. Perhaps they truly were alone, he thought, or perhaps they were simply too primitive to recognize the signs of advanced civilization. 3 decks below, Sergeant Jamal Reyes supervised the loading of supply pods destined for the Mars colonies. A former Marine who had served in the last of Earth's terrestrial conflicts before joining the space program, Jamal brought a military precision to everything he did. His calloused hands, scarred from years of combat and manual labor, moved with practiced efficiency as he checked manifests and ensured that every gram of cargo was properly secured for the long journey to Mars. The daily routine aboard the ISS followed the same patterns it had for months. Scientists conducted their experiments, engineers maintained the complex systems that kept them alive in the vacuum of space, and communications officers maintained contact with Earth and the growing network of human settlements throughout the solar system. It was a peaceful existence, marked by the quiet satisfaction of incremental progress and the occasional breakthrough that pushed humanity one step further into the cosmos. But peace, as Jamal knew from his military experience, was often nothing more than the calm before the storm. It was Sam Patterson, a junior science officer in the communications array, who first detected the anomaly. The young astronomer had been monitoring routine signals from the Mars Orbital Surveillance Network when an unusual energy signature appeared on his screens. At first, he dismissed it as a solar flare or some other natural phenomenon, but as he analyzed the data more carefully, he realized that what he was seeing defied all known physics. The signal was artificial structured and impossibly powerful. It pulsed with a rhythm that suggested intelligence broadcasting on frequencies that human technology had only recently learned to detect. Sam's hands trembled as he expanded his search parameters and discovered that the signal was not coming from Mars, but from somewhere beyond it, moving toward the inner solar system at a velocity that should have been impossible for any known propulsion system. Within minutes, Sam's discovery had triggered emergency protocols throughout the station. Elena rushed to the communications center, her heart pounding as she reviewed the data that would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe forever. The signal was not just artificial, it was sophisticated beyond anything human science had achieved, and it was getting stronger by the hour. Elena opened a priority channel to NASA headquarters in Houston, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was reporting. This is ISS Command to Houston Control. We have confirmed detection of an artificial signal of unknown origin approaching from the outer solar system. Repeat, we have confirmation of artificial intelligence of extraterrestrial origin. The response from Earth came swiftly. Within hours, every government on the planet had been alerted, and emergency sessions were being called in capitals around the world. Humanity's first contact with an alien intelligence was not the peaceful planned encounter that scientists had long envisioned. Instead, it arrived as a harbinger of something far more ominous. Dr. Liu found himself summoned to an emergency video conference with officials from NASA, the United Nations, and the major spacefaring nations. As he appeared on screens in the White House Situation Room, the Kremlin, and the headquarters of the European Space Agency, the weight of the moment pressed down on him, like the gravity he had left behind on Earth. Dr. Liu, the President of the United States, began her face grave with concern. "We need your assessment. What exactly are we dealing with here?" Marcus cleared his throat, choosing his words carefully. "Madam President, based on the signal characteristics and the approaching trajectory, we are facing contact with a technologically superior extraterrestrial intelligence. The energy output of their propulsion system alone exceeds our entire global energy production by several orders of magnitude. We are not dealing with explorers or scientists. The signature suggests military-grade technology." The president leaned forward. "Are you saying we're about to face an invasion?" "I'm saying we're about to encounter a civilization so advanced that our most sophisticated weapons would be like throwing rocks at a fighter jet. If their intentions are hostile, we need to prepare for the possibility that this could be humanity's final chapter." But even as Dr. Liu spoke these words, the situation was evolving far beyond anyone's worst fears. The initial signal had been joined by dozens of others, creating a complex pattern of communications that suggested not one alien vessel, but an entire fleet. More disturbing still, the signals appeared to be engaged in some form of conflict with each other, indicating that Earth had inadvertently become the focal point of an interstellar war. Elena coordinated the station's response as reports flooded in from observatories around the world. Massive ships, each the size of a small city, had appeared in Earth's outer atmosphere. The vessels were clearly of two different designs, their aggressive maneuvers suggesting they were engaged in combat. Energy weapons that humanity could barely comprehend lit up the night sky, and the first casualties began to mount as debris from the battle rained down on the planet below. Madrid was the first major city to be destroyed. A piece of alien wreckage, still glowing with residual energy from whatever weapon had damaged it, struck the Spanish capital with the force of a nuclear bomb. In an instant, 3 million people were dead, and the reality of humanity's situation became terrifyingly clear. They were not participants in this conflict, they were collateral damage. The two alien factions, which human intelligence quickly designated as the Axis Fleet and the Coalition, appeared to be using Earth's orbital space as a battlefield. Neither side seemed particularly concerned about the primitive species that inhabited the planet below, viewing human civilization, much as humans might view an anthill in the path of a construction project. As more cities fell to falling debris and stray weapons fire, Elena made a decision that would define humanity's response to the crisis. Rather than simply evacuating to underground shelters and hoping for the best, she proposed something unprecedented, a mass evacuation of Earth itself. "We have the technology," she argued, during a heated conference call with world leaders. "Our Mars colonies prove we can sustain human life in space indefinitely. If we can't fight these aliens, we can at least preserve our species by getting as many people off Earth as possible." The plan was audacious beyond belief. Using every available spacecraft, from massive cargo haulers to converted passenger jets fitted with basic life support systems, humanity would attempt to evacuate over 5 million people to the outer solar system. It was a desperate gamble, but as more cities were destroyed by the ongoing alien conflict, it became clear that it might be their only chance for survival. Jamal found himself commanding a ragtag fleet of civilian vessels, hastily converted for space travel. His military experience proved invaluable as he organized convoy routes and established protocols for protecting the vulnerable evacuation ships. Working with limited resources and aging equipment, he transformed ordinary cargo vessels into lifeboats for humanity's survival. Meanwhile, Dr. Liu led a team of scientists and engineers in perhaps the most important reverse engineering project in human history. Debris from the alien conflict provided unprecedented access to advanced technology, and Liu's team worked around the clock to understand and adapt alien systems for human use. The breakthrough came when they discovered that the alien technology responded to human thought patterns in unexpected ways, suggesting that consciousness itself might be a universal constant that could bridge the gap between species. The Murphy Protocol, as it came to be known, represented humanity's first successful integration of alien technology with human intuition. Named after the old military adage that anything that can go wrong will go wrong, the protocol embraced chaos and unpredictability as strengths rather than weaknesses. Where alien tactics relied on precise calculations and overwhelming technological superiority, the Murphy Protocol introduced elements of controlled randomness that proved surprisingly effective against opponents who had never encountered such an approach. As the evacuation proceeded, the alien conflict intensified. The coalition forces, recognizing that their Axis opponents were being somehow aided by the primitive humans, turned their attention to Earth with devastating results. Entire continents were scorched by weapons that turned matter itself into energy, and the planet's atmosphere began to break down under the assault. But humanity refused to go quietly into extinction. The evacuated populations had established themselves in the outer solar system, using hollowed-out asteroids and hastily constructed habitats to create a new civilization among the stars. They called their new home the Renaissance System, a collection of orbital habitats and mining stations that represented humanity's rebirth as a spacefaring species. The final confrontation came when the coalition decided to eliminate the human survivors once and for all. Their massive battle fleet, led by a command ship that dwarfed Earth's moon, moved into the Renaissance System with the intention of sterilizing every human settlement. It should have been a massacre. The coalition possessed weapons that could destroy planets and shields that could deflect any attack humanity could mount. But they had not accounted for the Murphy Protocol. Elena, now serving as the military commander of the human fleet, coordinated the defense of their new home with a strategy that would have seemed insane to any traditional military commander. Instead of trying to match the coalition's overwhelming technological advantage, the human fleet embraced chaos. Ships broke formation and attacked from seemingly random directions. Weapons were fired, not at their intended targets, but at empty space where enemy vessels might be in the future. Communications were deliberately scrambled to prevent the enemy from predicting human movements. The coalition, accustomed to fighting opponents who relied on precise, tactical calculations and overwhelming force, found themselves completely unprepared for an enemy that seemed to thrive on confusion and unpredictability. Their advanced AI systems, designed to predict and counter enemy movements, were overwhelmed by the sheer randomness of human tactics. Ships fired on their own allies in the confusion, and their once invincible formation dissolved into chaos. Dr. Liu, working from the scientific vessel that served as humanity's mobile laboratory, made a crucial discovery during the battle. The alien technology was not just responding to human thought patterns, it was being influenced by them. Human consciousness, with its capacity for intuition, creativity, and yes, even chaos, was somehow interfering with the aliens' precisely calibrated systems. Jamal, commanding the civilian defense force, saw the opportunity first. "All ships," he broadcast across the human fleet, "stop thinking like soldiers and start thinking like humans. Trust your instincts, ignore the manual, and do whatever feels right." It was the most unconventional military order ever given, and it worked perfectly. The human fleet transformed from a desperate collection of refugees into something unprecedented, an army that fought with heart as much as technology. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer embraced their humanity as a weapon, using intuition and creativity to overcome opponents who possessed every advantage except the capacity for controlled chaos. The coalition's command ship, the pride of their fleet and supposedly invincible, found itself surrounded by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Its weapons, designed to track and destroy predictable targets, could not adapt to the erratic movements of ships piloted by humans who trusted their instincts over their instruments. Elena led the final assault herself, commanding a small fighter craft that had been hastily modified with recovered alien technology. As she dove toward the massive command ship, she felt the Murphy Protocol responding to her thoughts, the alien systems harmonizing with her human intuition in a way their original creators had never intended. The Coalition command ship's destruction marked the end of the battle and the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The Axis fleet, impressed by humanity's unexpected victory, approached under a flag of truce and proposed an alliance. They had been fighting the Coalition for centuries, they explained, and had never seen anything like the humans' ability to turn chaos into victory. The negotiations that followed were conducted aboard New Terra, a space station constructed from the hulks of destroyed Coalition vessels. Elena, now recognized as the leader of what had become known as the Terran Remnant, found herself negotiating as an equal with beings whose technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. But technology, as the recent battle had proven, was not everything. Dr. Liu presented his findings on the Murphy Protocol to the Axis representatives, demonstrating how human consciousness could interface with alien technology in unprecedented ways. The discovery had implications that went far beyond military applications, suggesting that consciousness itself might be the key to unlocking new forms of technology that neither humans nor aliens had previously imagined. Jamal, representing the civilian population that had sacrificed everything to survive the war, ensured that any alliance would prioritize the protection and welfare of ordinary people over military considerations. His experiences commanding the evacuation had taught him that true strength came not from weapons or technology, but from the willingness of individuals to sacrifice for something greater than themselves. The alliance treaty, signed in the shadow of Earth's cooling remains, established the Terran Confederation as a sovereign member of the galactic community. Humanity was granted territorial rights to several star systems, access to advanced technology, and most importantly, protection from future Coalition attacks. In return, they would share their unique insights into consciousness-based technology and provide military support against ongoing Coalition expansion. 10 years after the destruction of Earth, the Terran Confederation had grown to encompass 23 star systems. Human settlements dotted the galaxy, each one a testament to their species' remarkable ability to adapt and survive. The Murphy Protocol had evolved into an entire philosophy of technology that valued intuition and creativity, alongside precision and logic. Elena, Marcus, and Jamal met aboard the Earthship, a massive vessel constructed as both a memorial to their lost homeworld and a symbol of humanity's future among the stars. The ship's hull was forged from metal, salvaged from Earth's ruins, and its corridors were lined with soil that had once supported the gardens and farms of humanity's birthworld. As they stood in the observation deck looking out at a view that would have been unimaginable just a decade earlier, Elena activated the ship's communications array and sent a message to every human settlement throughout the galaxy. "We remember Earth. We remember what we lost, and we remember what we gained. We were primitive once, measured by the standards of those who possessed technology we could barely comprehend. But we learned that true advancement is not measured in the power of our weapons or the sophistication of our tools. It is measured in our capacity to adapt, to create, to care for one another, and yes, even to embrace the chaos that makes us human." She paused, looking at her companions who had shared the journey from desperate survivors to leaders of a new civilization. "We were primitive until the moment we chose to rise. And now, we rise together not just as survivors, but as proof that intelligence and technology mean nothing without the heart to use them wisely." The message was received across the galaxy, not just by human settlements, but by alien civilizations who had come to respect and fear the species that had turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. The humans, who had once been dismissed as primitive, had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a people who had transformed the chaos of war into the foundation of a new kind of civilization. In the years that followed, the Terran Confederation would face new challenges and achieve new victories. They would explore star systems that had never known the touch of intelligent life, establish trade relationships with alien species that had existed for millennia, and continue to develop technologies that bridge the gap between consciousness and engineering. But always they carried with them the memory of a blue world that had been their first home, and the knowledge that their greatest strength lay not in trying to become like those who had come before them, but in remaining true to the chaotic, creative, compassionate spirit that made them uniquely human. Dr. Liu often told his students that the Murphy Protocol was not really about technology at all. It was about recognizing that consciousness itself was the greatest tool in the universe, and that the seemingly primitive human capacity for intuition, creativity, and controlled chaos was actually the key to unlocking possibilities that pure logic could never achieve. Jamal, now commanding the Confederation's peacekeeping forces, made sure that every military academy in human space taught not just tactics and technology, but also the importance of protecting those who could not protect themselves. The evacuation of Earth had taught him that true victory was not measured in enemies defeated, but in lives saved and futures preserved. And Elena, serving as the Confederation's first president, worked tirelessly to ensure that humanity's rapid expansion into the galaxy never lost sight of the values that had made their survival possible. In a universe where technology often seemed to make individuals insignificant, she insisted that every human life had value, and that their civilization's greatest achievement was not its starships or its weapons, but its commitment to the principle that no one should be left behind. The Earthship continued its journey through the galaxy, carrying within its hull the DNA of every Earth species that scientists had been able to preserve, along with vast libraries of human knowledge, art, and culture. It was both a seed ship that could establish new colonies and a museum that preserved the memory of humanity's origins. But most importantly, it was a symbol of transformation, proof that even the most devastating loss could become the foundation for something greater. As the ship passed through the outer reaches of the Renaissance system, its sensors detected the faint energy signatures of coalition scouts, reminders that the war was far from over. But Elena felt no fear as she watched the distant contacts on her tactical display. Humanity had learned to thrive in chaos, to find strength in uncertainty, and to turn their enemies' greatest advantages against them. They had been primitive once by the standards of a galaxy that valued only technological superiority and ruthless efficiency. But they had discovered something that their advanced enemies had forgotten, that true intelligence lay not in the perfection of systems, but in the wisdom to know when those systems needed to be abandoned in favor of something more human. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of wonders yet to be discovered and challenges yet to be overcome. And somewhere among those distant suns, carried forward by ships that bore the names of lost Earth cities and fallen heroes, humanity continued its greatest adventure. The journey from a primitive species that had barely left its homeworld to a civilization that would help reshape the galaxy itself. The message that echoed across human space, transmitted from ship to ship and settlement to settlement, remained the same: remember Earth. We were primitive until we rose. And in those words lay both a memorial to what had been lost and a promise of what was yet to come.